daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome back to the Daily Southampton, part of the Global Sports Podcast Network. My name is Greg Elliott, and as always today, joined by my good friend and wonderful co-host, Zach Ingo Finch. But also today joined by our illustrious founder of the Global Sports Podcast Network and Derby County fan, Nick Britten. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, thanks for remembering my name then, because you had to look down.
Did you also see him look down?
I saw you got as far as Nick, and then you thought, oh no, what to do?
It was just the indecisiveness of whether to go with surname or not, but
it's great to be here, lads. Thanks. I'm feeling very wanted right now.
Look, we're out of practice with these crossovers, Nick. I'm not used to having guests on the show, but how you doing? Are you doing all right?
I'm very well. Yeah, I'm very well. I'm really even more buoyed by last night's stunning 1-1 against Charlton Athletic. Which, by the way, I was working in Belfast yesterday, and I rushed home to get there. So you're plane over to Birmingham, up the M42, up the A38. And got to the ground literally just as I kicked off. And I had nothing to eat pretty much all day. And I was in a right rush. And it just wasn't worth it, frankly. It just wasn't worth it. I mean, what we're learning about Derby is there's no point turning up till half time. There's literally no point. Just come at sort of 4 o'clock for the second half, because nothing ever happens other than conceding a goal and being booed off. That seems to be the current theme. And then second half generally sort of improves. So maybe I should have just stayed at home, had something to eat, and then popped along for later on.
That sounds to me like we should just have 45 minutes of football, because that's how we've kind of been all season. You keep calling us a second half team. This sounds perfect.
So all rock up at half time.
4 till 5 on Saturday is going to be fantastic.
It's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, Saints loanee James Bree scoring against you last night as well, just to add to the story.
Oh, by the way, what a goal. I mean, you might not have seen it. And it was totally out of keeping with everything else that went on for the 9 minutes or whatever it was, right? But the ball's pumped up, and whoever it is, the Charlton player, he takes it he kind of controls it on his toe cap. This is like a punt from 50, 60 yards away. And I think that's what threw us, because everybody expected it just to bounce off his foot and go into the stand, or miss it and it bounced up in the air. But because he controlled it, it just gave him loads of space. And it was pass. And then Bree came in with an absolute rocket into the far corner. And it was a great goal. And you just thought, how on earth did that even happen?
Yeah, it's been doing the rounds on the Saints social media this morning for sure. But I mean, it's going to be an interesting game. I mean, we fared slightly better last night and got the win, but I don't think it was convincing as a win. Would you say, Zach?
No. This is the problem: is I don't want to sound like I'm too negative all the time, despite the fact that I feel like this is at this point my caricature. Right? Is that he's miserable and hates Southampton? It's nothing to do with that. Is the fact that I feel like the only reason we won that game is because the referee was really bad, because they would have equalised and were gunning to equalise, and we sat back on it a little bit more. And I think that, as you pointed out yesterday, Greg, like just anyone that's watched Southampton in the last decade, we need to kill off games. We cannot sit on a one goal lead. It's just not how we have ever played well as a team. But it paid off. So again, though, it's not convincingly enough for me, for the rest of the season. Like, I know you were like, oh yeah, no, it's the start, the restart. And I'm like, yeah, but mate, you genuinely think we're going to win goals by a game for the rest of the season? Is that how you want it to be? Like,
look, I mean, winning's a habit is what they say. And so now we won dirty, if you like. So now we just cruise the rest of the league. That's the hard part of the way. Get over that first hurdle and just sail on. That's got to be it, right?
Sure. I'll believe it when you do, mate.
I mean, what's really interesting to me is I've seen a lot of criticism thrown, mostly from Derby fans, towards Derby for playing like a low block at home, specifically, and really sort of sitting deep and sitting back, and that's probably something we're going to struggle against. But is that what we're expecting on Saturday, Nick?
Well, the idea is that a low block makes you difficult to score against. So don't worry too much about that. We started the season playing 3 at the back, or actually no. Well, it wasn't 3 at the back; it was 7 at the back. So you had 3 central defenders, 2 wing backs who didn't do much winging but did plenty of backing, and then 2 sort of central defensive midfielders. So we kind of had 7 players, then a 50-yard gap to anybody else, and that was part of the problem. And last week, for the Wrexham game last Saturday, we finally went with 4 at the back, which allowed us to put an extra striker on the pitch. And it looked a lot better. I'm not going to lie. It looked a lot better. But I think, and I don't know whether, my sense from Southampton is you're struggling sort of for the same reason we are at the early part of the season. We brought in a lot of players over the summer. There was a lot of flux. Plus, I wouldn't say it was not a new manager like Will Still is, but Eustace only came in sort of January time, and between January and May, it was just a battle for survival. Nobody was even thinking about this season. It was just, can we stay up? And so having brought in sort of 10 or so new players, half of whom or more were injured, and they've either come into the team straight away and are trying to find their rhythm and their way into it, or they're just coming into the team and trying to find their way back from injury, and there's still 2 or 3 more to come. And as a result, it just looks really quite disjointed. And I'm not sure that John Eustace has yet found the right pattern or found the right formation. And they're just bits of it that just don't work. They just don't work. And the supporters are looking at it and going, well, we've got players elsewhere who can do this, and wrong formation. You know what sports are like. They get really hung up on formations. Well, I'm kind of like, I'm not really bothered about formation. Can we just please pass to each other? That'd be a good start.
Get the
Just
basics
do that for
right.
a bit. Yeah. So,
That's it.
and I sense it's the kind of same with you guys, and maybe you want to tell me different, but it's just there's a lot of flux over the summer. You lost some of your better players. You've signed a lot of players, and it's just all about settling down. And the Championship, if you can remember back far from like 2 years ago when you were last in it, the Championship it's an unforgiving
Nothing
league.
happened in the middle. We don't talk about that. It's
Well, nothing happened indeed. You did beat our record, so well done for that. Or perhaps, well done for that, because the only thing, and we had this conversation lots, didn't we, last year? I was desperate for you to beat Derby's 11-point worst team in history record, because it's the only thing that keeps us relevant in football in 2025. Because other than that, we're just kind of a nothing, non-entity, lower Championship team. And or the last couple of years, obviously been a League One team as well. So, yeah, I'm expecting a lot better from Southampton. I just hope it doesn't start Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a case of, you're right, bedding in and getting the players, and I think that Saturday into Tuesday this week was the first time we've named the same starting 11 in 2 consecutive games. I mean, in as long as I can remember, to be honest. It's the fact that there were no changes. So it's, we've seemed to be finding our feet and sticking the performance on. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Nick, I want to ask you about a couple of your summer signings, but first let's have a pause. Let's take a break and hear a word from our partners at Bioniq.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimize your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN 2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now. Your body...
Oh, let's have it again, shall we? It was that good.
And we're back. Right, Nick, one of the names we're not going to see on Saturday, but seems to be, I don't know, I mean, he scored at least that 1-1 goal against Wrexham for you, is on loan from us, Breran Diaz. Is he starting to actually play some football for you guys? It's not something we saw from him.
Not really, no. Not really. I have memories of Brereton Diaz coming to Pride Park at Blackburn and absolutely ripping us to shreds. He played in the front three, and they were like 3-0 up in about 20 minutes, which it's not unheard of, but it was an extraordinary performance. And that's kind of my memory of him. And I thought when we signed him, it was a very late signing. It's probably our last signing of the day, of the window. And I think there was an element there of, look, we are desperate, and I mean desperate, to get somebody in who can play wide, and somebody who can play in that kind of, in a 4-2-3-1, play, with width in that three behind whoever the striker is. But he kind of just looks unfit, and I can understand that because he hasn't really played a lot of football recently. He just looks a bit sluggish, a bit unfit, not quite with it. And look, Derby fans, I suppose, like any other football supporter, they're quite unforgiving, and they don't give you a lot of time to improve your performances if you're not doing it on a pitch. And then he came up with that wonder goal against Wrexham on Saturday, and everybody went, "Oh, well, okay, fine, yeah, that's the player we thought we were going to sign. Is there great hope here?" But last night he was just completely anonymous, and yeah, I don't know. I still feel there's hope, and you may want to tell me otherwise, but I still feel there's hope because I think there is a player in there without a shadow of a doubt, and he can. I think he's got good technical ability. He looks devoid of confidence as much as anything else right now. He just doesn't. He just looks like he needs to get a bit fitter, a bit sharper, and just maybe go on a run of 2 or 3, 4 games where everything's working for him. Because he might do something and it looks good, and then a couple of minutes later he'll do something which doesn't look good, and then he'll shrink into his shell, and it just feels like
I suppose that should hardly come as a surprise, though, right? Being involved in that Sheffield United team that didn't do particularly well in the Premier League, and then coming to us and not doing very well in a team that didn't do well at all. I think it's fairly unanimous across our fan base that there's more of a player in there than we managed to get out of him, that's for sure. Zach, right? Like, that was where we got to.
Yeah, I think that was us being kind, because we don't like to just badmouth people for the sake of it. It's uncouth, but he, for us, hasn't produced anything. Like, we bang on about the fact the only thing we've ever seen him produce was a really good goal in open training. And the fact that we keep having to reference this open training session from July 2024 says all you need to know about how well he did for us. And the problem is despite the fact we had our worst season of all time, there were still players that were just better than him. And I think that, he was brought in a similar position as sort of a last minute signing when we were not really having much of a transfer policy other than, well, he looks like he could play in the Premier League. Oh, he played in the Premier League. Like, it does feel like a lot of Russell Martin's transfer policy at the time, as stated by him, was not being controlled by anyone, and they just kind of winged it, right? And then he came in and they hoped that he could score a couple of goals like he did at Sheffield, and he didn't. And then we didn't know what his best position was. And then I think you were quite forgiving for a long time, Greg, and eventually somebody took his place, and then he just never got that place back. And one of the resounding memories I remember of the last 6 months was he cut his hair and everyone went, "Oh," and then he visited Poulton's Park with his family. And that's that. Sorry, Peppa Pig world to people that aren't local.
Yeah. It's difficult to do. Look, I remember when he burst onto the scene with Forest as a young man, and he looked really, really good. Then, obviously, he went to Blackburn. I thought he looked really good at Blackburn. But in the last 2 or 3 years, it's just kind of, I won't say gone off the rails. It's just kind of fallen away from it a little bit. But he's only 26. So he's got, if he can get up to where he was, he's got, 3 good years left in him.
Yeah.
But I don't quite know what the key to unlocking that is. Because
we thought it was Adam Armstrong, which is why we paired him back up with Adam Armstrong, and it did not work because Adam Armstrong ended up for 6 months at West Brom. So
not ideal. I'm still not 100% sure what his best position is either, because he's not a winger, because he's not got the pace of a winger. So is he sort of an inverted winger where he plays more centrally, because that's what he's been doing for Derby?
Yeah, kind of like an inverted winger that's not quite got the prowess and like poacher style feel that you want from a striker. Somewhere right in the middle of the two seems to be the one. But yeah, it's an interesting one. But obviously, as he's on loan, won't be able to play a part on Saturday. So what does that do? Does that sort of give you options in attack that are sort of more promising than Diaz?
Well, if the answer to your question is, am I expecting a call from the manager to take my boots along and play, then still the answer would be yes, it does. No, that's important. Yeah, it does. It does, because at the moment, as I said earlier on, the manager, I think, is still searching around for what he can find, searching around for his best players, searching around for his best formation. And one man's misfortune in not being able to play, it just opens the door to somebody else. But it won't be. It'll just be like Andy Vyman. So it's not going to be suddenly a kind of revolutionary. Right, this is it. It'll just be, oh yeah, it'll just be Andy Vyman then. And everyone will just go, oh, okay then, and that'll be that. That'll be that. So I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's a huge loss to us. With the greatest respect to him, I don't think him not playing is going to cause a major problem in how Derby play. Equally, we don't have anybody who's much better to come in and take that role.
So what, Nick? What are your expectations coming into the game? Then, are you expecting to get anything out of the game?
Well, I was quite surprised when I looked down the table the other day to see you guys lower mid-table, because I would have expected to see Southampton in the top 6 all season. But it's been a funny start to the Championship campaign anyway, and it looks like, well, Leicester have done better than I expected, because I didn't expect Leicester to really do much this season, but they're doing very well. Coventry have carried on that momentum that they had last season. I thought Southampton would be there and thereabouts, and you might still be, but with a new manager, a lot of new players, you've lost. I think losing the likes of Dibbling, Fernandez, players like that. They're good players at Championship level. They are good players, regardless of what happened last year in the Premier League, and having to then find them. Find replacements for them. I mean, bring in new players, get used to a new manager. It all does take time. And I sense, totally unnecessarily, a sense of panic among Derby supporters that in October we're not doing what we perhaps expected to see. Generally, people are disappointed. I'm disappointed with the way we've started the season, but it's only the 1st of October today, and there's an awful long way to go. And you might just be wallowing around mid-table, but you put a run together between December and March and February, and you can shoot up the league. No problem at all. So yeah, it's all a little bit disappointing. So far, our home performances, and you hope you don't see this on Saturday, but you might. Home performances have been terrible first half, really insipid, let a goal in. Second half, change formation, give it a bit more of a go, get a goal back, draw 1-1. That's kind of it. That's kind of where we are. We haven't won at home this season. We've only won one game, which was an absolute scabbiest of scabby 1-0 away win at West Brom, where you have 1% possession and score like with 2 minutes to go, and spend the rest of your time just sitting on your box, kicking the ball away when it comes anywhere near you. It's one of those kind of games. But we've got a definite hoodoo over West Brom. We really do. We've beaten them in the League Cup again this year, doing exactly the same. So we've beaten them twice at their place with a combined possession of about 4%.
Amazing.
So
yeah, I don't know. Ordinarily, I'll go, I'd expect Southampton to win this. But I'm interested to hear from you guys what your thoughts are, because I don't think that Pride Park at the moment is a difficult place to go and get a result. If you're on it, I just don't. So I'm a little bit worried, I'm not going to lie. But equally, that said, everybody's kind of coming around to the view, and I hope John Eustace is the same, is that we need to go out and win a home game, and we need to actually start playing from the off instead of start playing in the second half.
From half time.
So I'm looking forward to, sorry to answer your question in a roundabout way, I'm looking forward to on Saturday, what I want to see is a much more up and at it performance from Derby from the first whistle. It'll be a full house. And I think that we would expect to see Southampton. We expect Southampton to be the best quality opposition we've had at Pride Park this season, and as a result, we need mentally to be on it from the very start.
Interesting, Zach. Do you think this is where we kick on from this result on Tuesday and finally have this sort of performance that feels slightly more decisive, or do you think that it's going to be more difficult than that?
I really want it to be, but I could see us being at 1-1. And it's funny because I think that the way that you feel, Nick, about Derby is often how a lot of Saints fans seems to feel about Saints. We should be doing better than we are. It's taken too long. We don't, like, some people are complaining about Still already, calling him clueless. He's not very good. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what his best 11 are. And like the mental trauma from last year is just still very raw. And I think that there's a lot of players, that we've ended up pretty much switching out our entire starting 11 over the last couple of weeks, right? and our entire defensive line, bar Ryan Manning, is now players that either weren't at the club last year or if they weren't playing. So it's kind of, I guess, wiped that slate clean. The problem I've got, Greg, is that we talk about this a lot, and we talk about, I could see us having 80% possession. I could see us having 34 shots on target. I can see one of them going in because of just the way that we've been. We just can't seem to finish off chances. And then, as you always point out, Greg, and I always have to counter you, where it's like, oh, well, they scored with their only shot on target. And I'm like, yeah, but that's all they need. And that's the problem with us in general. And like, I'd love us to kind of move on and build from the performances we've had this week and end up with 7 points from the entire week, right? I also could see it just being like 1-1, right? That's the sad reality of where I'm at. You're probably slightly more optimistic than me, I'm not going to lie. But I can see it happening.
Always more optimistic than you, mate. That's just the dynamic we work with. All right, let's get into that and get some proper score predictions. But first, a break and a message from our partners at Zencastr. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description and learn more about Zencastr.
I should say before we get onto this, Zach, I should say, and I don't wish to worry you any more than you're clearly worried, but we are the absolute masters of having one shot on target and scoring from it.
Yeah, see? That's what I worry about.
I mean, that is the concern, right? I mean, there's still, as good of our performances have been pretty much across the team, there's still huge question marks over our goalkeepers, right? Like, that's, I think as the season goes on and we get closer to January, that's only going to become more and more of a conversation, because I don't know if McCarthy was properly at fault for either of the goals we conceded this week, but it feels like if Bazunu was in goal when they went in, they'd be, a lot more under the microscope. I don't know. Does that feel fair, Zach, or is that...
Again, it's like the whole argument of like Ramsdale is just on the bench at Newcastle. He's not even playing. Why don't we bring him back from loan? I'm like, I just don't think that he wants to be here. They've paid an extremely large loan fee for him. They probably don't want to pay the wages of him being back here. And it's a position that we struggled with. Like, people were hoping we'd bring in a better goalkeeper. We brought in a third choice goalkeeper to basically just train with them. And they are either happy with the situation of potentially mixing it between Bazunu and McCarthy, or they're not, and there's not really a huge amount they can do about it because Ramsdale went out on loan and didn't go properly. And I think we're just going to have to learn to deal with that. But I agree with you that putting Baz under the microscope every time a goal's let in and then being like with McCarthy, Baz would have saved that first save he made. It's like, just doesn't really make sense to me. There's a lot of sort of in. My point, as my point is to you constantly, mate, is that we should realistically be putting the goalkeepers in a lot of positions where they have to make weird looking saves anyway. We should get the ball back quicker, considering we're supposed to be the quality opposition. But I think that we're just not quite there yet.
Yeah, but Alex McCarthy's a very experienced keeper. He should be easily good enough at this level, surely.
I think it's more that he's getting on more than anything else. I think, and match fitness and stuff like that was my big concern of not having a proper keeper or third keeper, is that like he played a bit for us last year when Ramsdale broke his finger, and then he went out injured after like 2 or 3 games, and we ended up with Joe Lumley in goal, who then put out the quote, "I want to be like next England goalkeeper," and proceeded to let in like 5 and then 5 again and then 4, which, to be clear, probably wasn't entirely his fault. However, didn't make us have any less worries about the goalkeeper situation. And the same with Bazunu, is that he had an ACL, which is why he was out when we got Ramsdale in, and then went back out on loan last January to, I think he went, where was it? Standard Bruges or Standard Liège. Had a couple of games and then also came back with an injury. They weren't very happy with him, which has left all these question marks over the both of them. And it's more of, okay, so if we keep McCarthy in and he keeps making mistakes and we swap Baz out, Or if they both pick up injuries, we're then relying on this third choice goalkeeper from Norwich, who, when we signed him, they were setting off party poppers. Like, yay, he's out of the building. And we're all a bit like, well, we're not going to be like that for a new signing. We've not seen him play, but there's just also a lot around it.
Slightly stat based as well, right? I think that Bazunu has the lowest save percentage of versus shots against, which isn't
ideal,
like a made up thing, but yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one, but I mean, both of McCarthy's goals have famously gone in at his near post, which he seems to be quite happy to leave open pretty routinely. So I don't know. It's going to be a really interesting one.
It was always going to be a problem when Ramsdale went on loan, because I think if the idea is that he might come back if we get promoted, but I don't know how true that's going to be. And I think it's more frustrating from a fan perspective that you see him sat on the bench at Newcastle when he could be playing, him knowing full well that the only way he's going to get into the England squad isn't going to be playing Championship football. People then bring up the argument of James Trafford, and it's like, it doesn't matter how much we argue about it. The reality of the situation is we have two goalkeepers who are fighting for the place, and it will be decided by the manager off the back of training and performances which one's in goal. And yeah, it's going to be frustrating when they let goals in, but they are going to let goals in because that's just unfortunately the nature of the game. I don't know what else there is we can do about it, Greg, other than debate it every week and go, I think Bazunu's better than McCarthy and vice versa. And then one of them will make a mistake and then everyone will be like, no, we should get McCarthy back in goal. It's not going to... That's it.
In the background here, I did a bit of research, and we've only scored 3 goals in the first half of a game all season. So safe to say that the advice of the day is the second half should be good, right?
Unless both teams decide this is the game they're going to start the first 45 minutes with.
Well, no, it could be that. It could be that. I mean, I'm just, when I'm looking down at Derby's results, last night, second half goal. Wrexham away, second half goal. Lost at home to Preston North End with 0 goals. West Brom away, second half goal, very late in the day. Ipswich away was probably the best performance of the season. Second half goal. So we don't score in the first half. We just don't score. I don't think we scored. I'm just trying to think when we did. I'm sure we have scored at some stage this season in the first half, but I'm not convinced. So, yeah, it's going to be. Maybe it's just going to be a really good 3-3 draw or something where it's 2-2 at half time and everybody in the stadium is going, where's that come from? Including Southampton supporters. Like, well, literally, where has any of this come from? I'm not betting on it. I'm not betting on it.
That is not where my money would go. 0-0 at half time seems to be the starting point of any bet builder, right? All right, just to wrap up quickly then, some quick fire predictions. Zach, traditionally, I'll throw you under the bus first. So just what are you feeling?
I'm trying to be more positive for your sake. Let's go with 2-1. I still think we'll concede. I think we will concede that one shot. And I think maybe we can roll 2 in. And last time I said Adam Armstrong to score 2. I now think, I don't know if Ross Stewart will start Saturday just because of the fact that he looked pretty knackered, looked pretty leggy, got taken off for Cameron Archer. Maybe Cameron Archer scores 2, mate.
Get all of the strikers firing. I like it.
I'm just glad that we're no longer being like Taylor Harwood-Bellis and Jack Stevens as the 2 goal scorers. Like, it's quite nice that the outfield players are doing the job of the outfield players.
It's good. It's good. How about you, Nick? How do you see it playing out?
Well, I'm just thinking back. I knew we'd scored in the first half at some stage. Very early on in the season, which seems a long time ago, we scored twice in the first half against Coventry. In fact, and then we scored once in the second half. We scored 3 goals at home. Amazing. But we let in 5. So
it was that 5-3 game. We covered that game, Greg. It was
good. But since then, it's been 1 goal or no goals. That's it. That's all we've been managing at home. I think a lot will depend. I'm hoping that John Eustace has looked at the last 2 home performances and last night in particular. We've got a real issue in midfield where we play Ebu Adams and Lewis Travis, who's been brought in by Eustace, he was his captain at Blackburn under Eustace. But the 2 of them are the same person. They can do one job, which is win the ball back. Neither of them can pass a football. But we've got a guy called David Ozo on loan from Crystal Palace, who's a really, really good, progressive, forward-passing midfielder, but he can't get in a team because, for reasons that no Derby County supporter can understand whatsoever, Eustace wants to have Adams and Travis in there. And what we're seeing is Ozo's now starting to get introduced off the bench earlier and earlier. He came on at half time last night and made a massive difference because he's what you'd call a kind of just a classic defensive midfielder, in as much as he'll sit and he'll just get the ball and then he'll just get it moving and allow players to play. And if he plays from the start, he must play from the start. We were all astounded when he got left on the bench again last night. There wasn't a Derby County. So, I mean, I know Twitter is not ever the greatest a barometer of common sense, but when the Derby Town team was announced last night, just literally every comment was Ozo on the bench. So if he plays Ozo from the start, that will make us much more progressive. The other thing that needs to happen, I think, probably is Carlton Morris, who's been our best signing so far, a veteran striker, really, really, really good signing, scored 4 and 4 at the start of the season, but has now been kind of relegated to the number 10 position to allow our multi-million pound signing, our big signing of the summer, a guy called Patrick Agyemang, who we've signed from Charlotte FC in America, to come in and play as a 9. I like them both. They were arguably our better two players last night, even though it was a pretty poor performance, but they work hard and they're good. But by moving Morris back into 10, you're losing that goal-scoring threat. But I'd still quite like to see Agyemang on the pitch. So whether he can find a way of getting Morris forward, I don't know. It's going to be a funny one. So it kind of depends on how he sets up. If he sets up how he's set up in the last 2 or 3 games, I expect to see exactly what we've seen in the last 2 or 3 games, which is a 1-1 draw. That's how I expected to see. If he decides, no, this is the game where I'm going to really, really go for it, there's nothing to suggest that's in his character whatsoever, then we can win. But I'm not confident. I'm not confident, if I'm honest with you. I don't think there's anything to suggest we should be confident because we're in the bottom 3 and we haven't won a home game all season. So it's difficult. So I'm going to play the percentages here. I'm going to play the percentages and go for a 1-1 draw.
I mean, that all does sound quite promising from a Saints perspective until you think about the fact that they're the sort of streaks that we love to break.
Yeah, I was going to say, Greg, like we absolutely love, like any striker that hasn't had a goal for 10 games. Any strike, like when we played Hull, Ollie McBurney had never scored against us. And then we talked about that, and then he went on to score, and it was like, well, it was written in the stars. It's very much feels like that, Greg, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. But look, I still think we're going to kick on. I think we're going to be all right. I think things are going to come together. And I actually agree with your scoreline. There's that. I think 2-1. I don't think we're going to put ourselves far enough out in front. And I think it's going to make for some rather uncomfortable watching for both ends, because that's what football loves to do to you, right?
If we do it without the help of the ref for the entirety of the second half, mate, I will probably feel more confident alongside you. That's where I'm at, because yesterday was just a bit. Whoa.
I just still don't think that years of watching Saints have prepared me well for trying to sit on a 1-goal lead. It's just not something that's ever going to be comfortable. So.
Well, I'm hoping that you've had your refereeing luck for the season, because we had it when we went to Ipswich and we drew 2-2 away at Ipswich, and we got some massive decisions in our favour. I mean, and a couple of them were ridiculous. I mean, Ipswich had such a clear penalty, and he booked the Ipswich player for diving, and then right under his nose, Lewis Travis kicked a player in the face, and he just went, yeah, that's fine, let's get on with it. No problem. Like the blokes lying on the ground, polaxed. And then we had the Wrexham refereeing performance, which was just payback, frankly. So, yeah, I'm hoping that we can get a referee in our favour, because I think we need all the luck we can get. If you guys won 2-1, it wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But I don't know. So we've got to win a game sooner or later. So Saturday's as good as any, isn't it?
That's it. Well, it's going to be interesting either way, and I can't wait to talk more about it tomorrow and build up to the game. Nick, thank you so much for joining us. You can catch Nick on the Daily Premier League Roundup.
Daily Premier League podcast, Daily Premier League podcast, which goes out obviously every day because it's called the Daily Premier League podcast, and once a week. Our Road to World Cup 26 podcast, which I do with Ken Davis, my co-founder and good buddy. And that still remains the only World Cup podcast on the entire planet.
It's nuts.
There we go. Absolutely. Go and give it a listen.
I think it's what we were going to say. It's great. That's what you meant to
it's
say.
fantastic.
To be clear, it's great. It's also bad, but it's great.
Yeah.
What I'd really like to do, gents, if you'll have me back on, is come back and discuss the game. After
for sure.
Absolutely, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Loads of space for fun episodes like that because we've got everyone's favourite and international break coming up. So absolutely brilliant. Yes, thank you very much, Nick, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
To think about. Zach, as always, thank you for joining me, and thank you everyone for listening. Go and give the Daily Premier League and the World Cup podcast on the Global Sports Podcast Network a listen. They are fantastic. They're really good.
That's the spirit.
We will be back tomorrow to talk more about the Derby game, but let us know your score predictions and what you think the game's going to play out in the comments on all the social medias. We're on all of them. We're on Facebook, Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, X, all of them. Probably forgot some in there somewhere. But hit us up. We love to hear from you on all of them and look forward to it. But until tomorrow, thanks for listening, everyone, and have a great day.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.